It's so easy for us to forget who we are, to forget that we are the divine in expression, and that we have all abundance available to us, the universe waiting to pour itself out. So we come together to do that. We like to start with an invocation. As I think of an invocation, it's our announcement to the universe that we're awake, that we're paying attention, that we are ready. Gives us a moment to pause, to be still, to still our thoughts, to set aside distractions, and open ourselves to hear and to learn, and tonight to be inspired. So let's go into prayer. And this is what I know. I know tonight's service unfolds perfectly. Each person here, each person listening, hears what they need to, remembers what they've forgotten, feels a sense of love and connection. We give thanks for the opportunity to come together. We give thanks for the technology that allows us to share this time. We give thanks for our center, and we give thanks for each other. Knowing all is well, we let this be by saying together, and so it is. My talk tonight is called One Sudden Brilliant Idea. And we're looking at the idea of inspiration. What does it mean to inspire and to be inspired? And how does that relate to this idea of the creative process and using our creative powers to bring things from the realm of thought, the realm of idea, into form before us where we can see them and enjoy them? Part of this process is creating a mental equivalent. That's what Ernest Holmes called it, a mental equivalent. Now, I like to think of a mental equivalent as a mold. So with our thoughts, we create a mold. And the infinite God stuff, infinite creative energy, pours itself into that mold. Now, that energy can take any form. It waits for us to create the mold so it knows what shape we want it to take. Another way I like to think of it is as a nucleus. We create a nucleus that draws to it more of the same, and then it grows into what we envision. In your own life, you look at what you're trying to create. You could start it out with, I know, and then what it's revealed as. So say, for instance, you're in a place where you are looking for a new place to use your talents and gifts to make a living, to support those you love. The employment you have is either non-existent or it's not really providing what you need. And you want to create that. So the first thing you might say, I know that my new employment is a revelation of God as, and then what is it? What shows up there? Now, this may take some thinking. Maybe you want your new employment to show up as a revelation of God as abundance. Maybe you want your new employment to show up as a revelation of God as excitement, as peace, as the ability to make a difference. So think about that. So that's the first part of the creative process. To start out by creating this mental equivalent. What is it? Now, I want to make it clear that we are creating all the time. We can't not create. It's our nature. And when you look around you at your life and what you see, that's what you've created. Now, some of us may say, well, wait a minute. I don't really like what I see. If I really had the power to create whatever I wanted, I wouldn't have created this. No, we are using our creative powers, and there's nothing bad. There's nothing wrong about that. It's just that we're not using our power in the way we want. I have a favorite story that perhaps you've heard me tell before about the man who died and went to heaven. And when he arrived at the pearly gates and St. Peter was there, St. Peter said, "Oh, welcome, welcome. We have a place prepared for you." And he took the man and led him to a house and said, "Here's your place in heaven." And the man went in, and he was a little disappointed because it was a little dingy. There was his recliner, a recliner just like his on earth that was broken, and there was the same grease spot on the wall. He went outside, and there was his same car from earth, the one with the window that didn't work, that kind of made a strange noise. And he drove it to work. There was his same crowded cubicle. So he kind of put up with it for a couple of days, because that's the kind of person he was. But then he'd had it. So he went to St. Peter. He said, "What's up with this? It's supposed to be heaven." And Peter said, "Oh, that's the way you'd arrange things on earth. So we thought that was how you wanted it." See, that's how the universe thinks. I've given you everything. You can create whatever you want. And yet, so often, we're satisfied or we accept less. So if you look around your life and you think, "No, this isn't what I want to create," don't blame yourself. Don't make yourself wrong. Say, "Okay, starting now, I'm going to create a new mental equivalent. An equivalent as I create my life." So the great work of our life is to create our lives as a work of art. So Ernest Holmes taught this over and over again in so many ways. Here's one thing he said that I really like. "We cannot say that one thought is creative while another is not. We must say that all thought is creative, according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. Thought creates a mold in the subjective in which the idea is accepted and poured and sets power in motion in accordance with the thought." You know, Jesus said, "It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." The Father represents the universe, ready to pour out as much good upon us as we can accept. The kingdom, the expansiveness, all there is. Same thing in the prodigal son story. As the boy came back from wandering, the Father, who also represents the universe, rushed out, unable to hold itself back, to wrap him in a robe, put a ring on his finger, prepare a feast. And then the older son, who was unhappy, the Father said to him, "All that I have is yours." That's the universe. So if you look at our center's sacred covenant, it's called a covenant because it's our promise that we will do our part to allow this to come into our lives. We often think if we don't have something, it's because of something out there. We want that. Why isn't it coming to us? But it's because we have not opened ourselves. We're not ready to accept it. So the covenant, the reason it's called a covenant is because it's our promise. I'm going to do the best I can to prepare myself to be ready to accept this good that I see. So let's look at the idea of inspiration. Now, in the old version of the English language, inspiration meant to put life or spirit into the human body. Inspiration, the spirit coming in. And you think of our words aspiration or respiration, they have to do with breathing. And in the Genesis creation myth, of course, it says that God breathed the breath of life into the humans, and they became living souls. This is the power of inspiration to bring us alive, to bring us fully alive as human beings with our full creative powers. You know, when we often, as we start a meditation, we start by focusing on our breathing in good, breathing in energy, our breath going in and out. And think of how our breath works. You know, we breathe, the oxygen comes into our lungs. The blood picks up the oxygen and carries it to every cell in our body where it's needed for us to prosper, to live, to be fully alive. That's how inspiration is. So we breathe in that spirit. It spreads throughout our body. So as we look at our center and look at what we're evolving into, what we want to evolve into, we're looking at this sense of inspiration. And I wanted to focus on the idea of we have to take that in. It's not ever forced on us. The universe never, ever gives us more than we can accept. Now, the example I like is the example of us going to the universe. We're hungry, say, and we say, please, I don't eat much. Just give me a dried up crust of an old peanut butter sandwich. You know what type I mean, right? In your kid's lunch bag, it's been in the bottom of their backpack, So just give me that, that'll be enough. Now, the universe, and it's okay to think of the universe as a person. We know it's not, but imagine the universe going, well, okay. The universe always says yes. That's what we ask for. The universe says, okay, here you are, but I had this banquet planned for you, and you were going to have the place of honor. It's not the universe, it's us. It's what we are able to accept, whether it's in our own lives and now in the life of our center. What are we able to accept? So the challenge is to increase that which we're able to accept. So, an inspired leader. What is an inspired leader? An inspired leader is one who can take a vision and translate it into reality. An inspired leader is far-seeing. An inspired leader sees beyond appearances. We also have the idea of light when we think of inspiration, and an inspired leader being able to see more because of the greater light. So I want to share a story with you, an old Buddhist tale about an inspired leader who saw beyond appearances. So this is a story about a man named Papakara. Now, Papakara meant the evil one, the wicked one, and he was a terrible person. He survived by robbing villagers and taking their crops and their animals. If you crossed him, he'd leave you bleeding. He didn't care about anyone. Even dogs ran away from him, and everyone knew him as Papakara. So the story goes that one day in early spring, the leaves were just starting to come out on the trees. He was resting near a stream in the place that he lived. And we don't know what happened to him. But he looked out and he saw the light reflecting off the water. And he heard a bird song that he'd never heard before. And an idea came into his mind that he wanted to go and find the Buddha. And he wanted to ask the Buddha to initiate him into the path to enlightenment. Now, the path to initiation and being initiated was a long and difficult path, and there were people that met and studied with the Buddha for a long time and never reached that point. The Buddha, of course, knew the nature of ultimate reality and had experienced that. And the path, being initiated on that path, meant you were ready for that kind of knowing, that kind of understanding. And there were many who sought that who were never accepted to be initiated. So Papakara started toward where the Buddha lived with his followers and students. And he was afraid as he came that if he came up to the front gate, they would turn him away because of his reputation. So he had the idea that he would go around to the back of the compound where the forest was, and he would climb over the back wall, and then maybe he could find the Buddha and speak to him before the people kicked him out. So he did that, but as he was climbing over the wall, two of the Buddha's followers saw him and grabbed him and said, "What are you doing here?" And he explained what he was doing here. "I want to study with the Buddha. I want to become a sannyasi, a holy man, and I want to be initiated into the path toward enlightenment." And of course they laughed and they said no, and they were ready to turn him away. But one of the men said, let's take him to Sariputra, the wise man. And Sariputra, it was said, had the gift of being able to look into your past lives. Let's ask Sariputra to look into his past lives and see if he ever has done anything good that would justify him being allowed to come here and learn and study with the Buddha. So they took him to Sariputra, and he went into a kind of a trance, and looked back in history. And as he came out, he said, he was frightened actually. He said, "I went back and looked at 1,000 lives, and in every one, he was just as awful, just as bad. Take him away, cast him out. We don't want him here." So they took him to the front gate to send him on his way. And it just so happened that the Buddha had been begging in the village and was coming back right then. And he said, "What are you doing here?" And Papakara said, "I want to study with you. I want to be initiated." And the Buddha took his hand and led him into the Buddha's hut where he lived and began to teach him. And in 3 days, the Buddha said he was ready to be initiated. And he was initiated into the path. Well, the other followers were upset. And they said, "Why do we even bother, looking at past lives, if it's not going to make any difference? And why have we bothered, to stay here and study so long and work so hard when we can't be initiated?" And he comes in 3 days. Buddha says he's ready. So Buddha, the compassionate one, the wise one, said this to the followers: "Yes, you looked into the past and you saw many lives of misery and evil, but you did not look into the future. When a person awakens to his true nature and makes a conscious, deliberate, intentional choice to enter a new life, a change occurs in that moment. That decision is decisive. No one is bound by what has gone before." It was the purity and integrity of this man's desire that let me know that he was ready to be initiated into the path to enlightenment. And then the Buddha went on. "Many of you," he said, "have been here for some time, claiming that you're seeking enlightenment. But what you're really seeking is my approval, the approval of the other people here, power, control. None of you have ever once come close to jhana as this man has." And then the Buddha told them, "Purify your desires, and then you too will be ready. Be clear on what you want, and then you can be initiated." Now, of course, we know that there's only one story, and it shows up everywhere. It's the story of our awakening, or the story of our awakening to who we really are. And of course, that's what happened with Papakara. Didn't matter what the past was. Doesn't matter how many challenges, things we've labeled mistakes in the past have happened. What matters is today, what we decide today, what we commit to today, the mental equivalent, the mold we create with our thoughts today, and welcome that creative energy to come into it. So remember, when we're inspired, we breathe in the energy of God. We take it in, and then it's ready to spread out as we direct. This is true in your own lives as you use your creative power and increase your ability to use that to create what you see, what you envision, what you imagine for your life. And it's true right now in the life of our center. It's about us expanding what we can accept. The universe can only give us what we can accept. Are we asking for a dried up peanut butter sandwich when the universe has a banquet for us? That's our part in this creative process. As we prepare ourselves as a community to accept Spirit's highest idea for our center, more and more good comes to us. It's our job, it's our task, our challenge to be ready. The universe is already there, giving out of its infinite supply. We could summarize all of this in a simple statement that you've heard many times that Ernest Holmes made. There's a power in the universe, and you can use it. In this space, wide open possibility, being ready to be inspired, let's take a moment and go into prayer together. This is what I know. I know that an infinite, powerful, positive, creative energy surrounds me, surrounds all of us, pushing, trying to express through us, wanting only good, an expansive view, and that this power, this energy is ready to take whatever shape we create with our thoughts. This is what it means to be human, is to have this creative power for our own lives, for the life of our center. As this is true for me, this is true for everyone listening. There's no place where this energy is not forever bursting out into form in amazing ways. For our center, we know that as we prepare ourselves, as we expand what we are able and willing to accept, that good comes to us in the form of a loving, compassionate, inspired leader, as wholeness, as perfection. And we accept and know that we have the power to do that. We give thanks. We give thanks for this opportunity to together go into this amazing project of creation. We give thanks for what we know will come into our lives and the life of our center. We give thanks for being human, for all the emotions we experience, for all the gifts the universe gives us for our awakening. We say thank you, and we let this go with freedom, with ease, ready, willing, and open And we say together, and so it is.